fallen in love with you.
Hello! Woo! What a book. Okay, hold on. How is everyone? Man. Okay, so, I finished this book and I was reading different reviews and what people think about the end with, Scout's like confrontation of Atticus. But let's start from the beginning. So weird to be on a Wednesday. Sorry. I agree. It's definitely strange. But let's start with this. One word. What do you guys think of Go Set a Watchman? Let's do our one word entirety things of the books. Can everyone hear me? Average. Disappointing. Underwhelming. My God. Okay. Underwhelmed. Alright. Not sorry. We're gonna enjoy this live. Okay. It was cool, but I like To Kill a Mockingbird better. Okay, great. Interesting book. Maybe not my favorite. Really cool. Phenomenal. Alright. Definitely more radical, I guess. Okay. Radical, interesting, provoking. All right. Thank you, Clarissa. Glad. Underwhelmed as hell. Why just underwhelming? What were your expectations of this book? Because I have to say, I had no expectations of this book going in. I knew that we were going to be reading about the same characters, and I knew that we loved To Kill a Mockingbird. For me, Awakening. Is there a lot of themes about in this book that are interesting. Some that reflect, I think, American society today. Some that are in the past and very interesting to learn about, and some that I think affect all of us as well. Like for me, the whole idea that when Uncle Jack confronts more drama, honestly, I expected more. Okay, more drama, that makes sense. I don't know, I guess I love the themes in the book. Yeah, I think the fact that her Uncle Jack kind of allowed her to realize that she had to kill, like, Atticus, or the belief of someone else, like, kind of allowing her decision, like, making her decisions for her in her mind, rather than her being an adult and being aware, like, okay, this is where I have to see my father as a person, not as, like, this figure. Which I think is interesting. I think we all have to do that in our lives at some point, where we look at our parents and we're like, oh wait, we're all people. This is kind of cool. Now, how many of you looked into the historical aspects of what was going on in the United States as this book was written? I thought we were going to pick up from where we left off or something like that. I also found it really repetitive, almost 300 pages long, and despite the storyline, and despite the Atticus storyline and how Jean-Louise grew up, responsibility in this book was great, okay? Jean-Louise kind of heightens the drama too. Yeah, Jean-Louise is feisty. I feel like they didn't say anything else. They had more to explore, I guess. Well, in one of the articles I read as like a review, they said that even though she wrote this book first, they think that this was like a first draft of To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's why we see some very similar things, like the way Maycomb is described and whatnot. The fact that her uncle slapped her was kind of freaking crazy. But, no, but I think one of the reasons why it felt weird is because we wanted it to be like right where they left, but really they jumped years, and that I think is supposed to signify years in Scout's growth that we missed. We didn't see her in the first book going to dances and becoming lady because she was so young, and then in this book at the end we see her first dance with Henry and how Jem was there, and that whole, we got to see her kind of in different phases where she was still the same, and even now she's kind of fighting with what's expected of her for Maycomb and what she wants for herself, which has been a theme in her whole life. But I think one of the biggest things that, alright, Bubbly Bay has suited, and my yawn train is starting because I'm talking more than I've talked today, and that happens. But I think, hold on, Alberto, now I want to yawn. Sorry, guys. But I think it was like that slap woke all of us up from what Scout was doing. And there's a theme there that her Uncle Jack kind of espoused that I was like, oh, okay, cool. The fact that when someone starts professing a political opinion that we don't agree with, I agree that the tendency, especially now, is to run from or immediately condemn the other opinion, rather than accept it as just that, the other opinion. Are some opinions, I believe, are some opinions dangerous? Yes. I think some opinions are dangerous, meaning that they allow room for things that we can't allow. But I think for the most part, that moment was kind of like, oh, you're right. Like, she was kind of running to try to get everyone to agree with her rather than seeing, okay, they're not me. I'm not them. But I don't agree with this, and that's okay. I thought that was cool. Because she was so quick to immediately cut down as soon as she didn't understand. And in some respects, I see them. I see, like, the other people's opinions. But, Maddie McCall, you're right. Like, the racism, uncool. And I don't, like, I think that's an opinion that can become dangerous. That whole thing. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just talking here because I'm still kind of taking it in a way. Yeah, the slap scene was the first impact. Weird, but the reasons behind it, Uncle was a genius for a lot of reasons. He was. Imagine if you could slap your homophobic raised family members during family dinners when they start getting political. Just imagine. Wow. But that's the thing. Like, we can't just slap them. Like, because that's not how things work. In this novel, it did allow her to listen. But I know there's a lot of bad press about Atticus' beliefs, but I liked that we saw this side to him that tarnishes him in a way as he came across overly pure and good. That was one of the things. Thank you, Triforce Dragons. One of the things that I read about was talking about how this book tarnishes the white savior aspect of Atticus in the first book. We see Atticus in the first book be the guy, and continue to be the guy in the second book, that espouses equal rights. People should be treated equally in all of these things. Now, how many of you guys looked up the court case that they were constantly referencing? The Supreme Court case in 1954, one of the most important in American history, Brown versus the Board of Education, which essentially proved that the idea that was reigning in the United States before then, segregation, that separate but equal, was okay. Brown versus the Board of Education tore that down and said that's unconstitutional and needs to change. So the mindset of Atticus was one of very common kind in the South, where they felt that was very challenging to them, and we saw Scout confront that with Atticus and say, how could you say and believe this one thing and then act in a completely different way? Clarissa, it was a very important time in our history, that court case. I think he's always been that person, but through time, Scout used to look at him through the eyes of a child. Now she wasn't aware of many things. She's now looking at him as a person that he's always been. And that's the thing I think is really cool about this book, is that we see Atticus through Scout's eyes as a child, and now we see Atticus through Scout's eyes as an adult, which we have with our parents, where we see them as these amazing people who could do no wrong, and then as adults we can see them as humans, which allows for that side that might not be the best. But I also think Uncle Jack had a point. How he was like, the town can use people like you that are on your side, if you can call it that. I thought that was very smartly put. And that she needs to be there, because what's good of running away from something like that when she can not only be someone that would be outspoken about that mindset, but also can help discover all the other people that agree with her. His methods are not okay, but he knew what to do. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite for years. Go Set a Watchman really challenged my ideas of Atticus. Growing up and realizing your parents are humans rough. And that's kind of how I felt, that we as readers had to deal with it as well. We had to look at this person that we were told is inherently good and discover that this person actually had ideas that we don't agree with, especially now. It was like we had to see Atticus as a human too, as a fully developed, complete character, and not just this image. This reminds me, did anyone look up what Go Set a Watchman means? In every aspect of the world, you will find many people like this, which is very rough and real, and life is not always fair. No. It was definitely needed, the different point of view, seeing growth, motion change. I really miss Cal. I wish we'd see more of her. Need to face your fear and be brave. Cal being so distant to Scout. Scout. Ouch. Yeah, but to me that, not that it made sense, but I understood what... I think the reason that happened is because of the time. Segregation had just been announced unconstitutional, and the South was reeling at the possibilities. And you see that echoed in even someone as even-tempered and calm as Atticus, asking, would you want them in your schools? Would you... Unaware that in doing so, like Scout mentions and calls him out on, he's limiting other people, other human beings. And I thought, while it's a completely different book, not so much. It's a very similar book, I think, actually. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. My expectations of it were none, though. I didn't have any idea what this book was about. But we didn't really know Atticus' opinion, and Scout jumped to conclusions quickly. I think you could argue that you could see Atticus' opinions through his arguments, especially when him and Scout were going back and forth. He was arguing with her, in lawyer way. What quote is from the Bible? Go Set a Watchman. It means to be our own protector, make our own choices and opinions, not make our own opinions based on the opinions of other people. Yeah, it's go be your own moral compass, which I think is interesting that this entire book is labeled that. I didn't look that up until after I finished, so it was like a cool thing where I didn't get this and someone actually says it in the book, but then to see that this whole book was about Scout becoming her own watchman. I thought that was kind of cool. Watchman is someone who serves as a moral compass, even in the face of temptation and malevolence. And throughout the novel, Jean-Louise must learn how to become her own watchman rather than relying on others to guide her, Atticus. Isaiah verse 6, For thus the Lord said unto me, Go set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. Thank you, guys. But she did blow off way before then. And I don't know about you, did anyone else get frustrated with Scout when she was cutting people off or disagreeing because she disagreed with them and it became difficult to kind of be on her side, even though I feel that she was right. Yeah, I've seen that Atticus was the watchman, but I think I think the whole book is about her becoming her own watchman. Like, it's about letting go of it. And then that's why Jack says she has to kill Atticus. She needed to grow up and enter the real world where her choices are her choices, her opinions are her opinions. I feel like that's maybe like a life process sometimes. I don't know. She says, I need a watchman to go forth and proclaim to them that 26 years is too long. to play a joke on anybody, no matter how funny it is. She's both an outsider and insider in Maycomb. I appreciate the development between the Watchman figure, even if I'm sure that she's not a Watchman. She's a strong girl that don't accept the old ideology like her family. I feel she was right too, but I was left breathless after those pages, like literally breathless, like I was running a marathon with someone that didn't want to be chased. If that makes sense. There was an immaturity to her action, but I think that's what parents bring out in us. It doesn't matter how grown you are. It's like a reversion to a younger mindset. I agree 100%. But I think the revelation that, because she goes through this whole thing where she's like, how can you think this way if I don't think this way? I wasn't raised to believe these things, and yet here you are, the person who did the raising, and now you believe these things, and I'm wondering where I missed the boat. I think there's that whole idea where there's a frustration and an annoyance, but once there's that acceptance that, like, oh, Atticus isn't her Watchman, she can kind of like, oh, okay, and like recalibrate. I'm catching up on comments real quick. Yeah, Annie, I agree. Now, in my mind, Rita, I don't know, we will have a discussion. We'll probably limit this one by like an extra 10 minutes, if that's okay. So we can talk about the power of habit, and so we can talk about, just really quickly about the Oscars. And Rita, you had asked me about something else you wanted me to bring up. I can't remember what that is right now. She's frustrated because she doesn't even realize that Atticus is her moral compass. I think Scout reacted the way she did because she's used to having the same beliefs as others around her. She's starting to develop her own now and doesn't know how to process that. Boom. You must have lived it. If a man says to you, this is the truth, and you believe him, and you discover what he says is not the truth, you're disappointed, and you make sure you will not be caught by him again. Well, yeah, the Oscar nominations, but I'm more talking about some of the movies and some of the snubs, because I thought that was interesting. We can do that if you want. It's one of my favorite. You know, I mean, literally breathless because it takes me back to all the time I try to express my own opinions and they shut me off. I think Rita and I are the only ones who don't like. I think. Okay, in a way, the way you're describing it makes me feel like how some people feel about the movie Uncut Gems. It's not a movie that you're enjoying watching while you're watching it, because it's so stressful. But when you're done, I think you can analyze the movie and be like, it was a great movie. Okay, so this was not one of our favorite books. Okay. Red Cardinal 07, we're talking about Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. You could screenshot this. Guys, you always want me to pin the book title, and it stresses me out every time because I'm on my laptop and I have to type like this, and then it doesn't work. Oh, man, hold on. Okay, hold on. Man, because now I gotta do this. It's not working. Nope. Jeez. Stress. We could poll who liked that book. We can do that later. I'm catching up on comments now. It's not like I didn't like it. It's just that I had expectations. It was definitely on me. If those expectations were met, that doesn't mean you didn't like it. No, I agree. I mean, you can say you didn't like a book, but you liked it. You know, you don't have to say oh, I can't wait to read it again. I don't know if I need to read this book again. Maybe in 10 years. But there's something in this book. It took forever. There's something in this book that I think is interesting to see. Hold on. I've got to do the balancing act again. There we go. To see how we can be more open, listen to people, and then how we might be able to communicate with people. I don't know. I feel like the way Scout feels is how some people feel. I mean, I'm going to get a little bit political here because this is a political book. How some people might feel if they're talking to family members that don't agree with them. Like if they're... I don't want to get political. I'm not going to get political here. I just feel that there's a grain that they're kind of harboring. I don't know. I'd read this again over Catch 22 any day. Especially that Scout wouldn't just go and talk to Atticus. This is a quick read too, not as big. Yeah, it was. I felt like it did kind of like whoosh, we swung through it. Yeah, because I feel like we've read a couple of books in Rosende Reads that as soon as I finished them, I wanted to start over and read it again. This book, I was like, I kind of want to sit with it a bit. I reread the chapter where her Uncle Jack, or Dr. Finch, kind of talks about the reasons people are thinking the way they think, and it's not okay, but that's really what's harboring it. I don't know. I thought this was cool. I don't know. You tweeted it at me, Rita. You tweeted it. The letters in this book, they were bigger. Yeah, like you guys can see them. Sometimes they're small. Apparently people hate this book. I just thought it was like... I really like Scout still, though. I loved her as a kid, and I think she's a great adult. I feel bad for Henry. How do you guys feel about that whole thing? Because that was one thing that I was like, I understand what Henry's saying, but I think it's a little... I don't know. I can't judge him because I don't live in Macomb, Alabama. I don't know what his life was like. Do I want to be a man of stronger character than that? And do I want him to have more integrity than that? Yes. But I can't judge him that. I can't judge him for that. You know, his ability to vote in ways that aren't in agreement with what he believes, to kind of nullify, to like work with like a status quo. I don't know. You know, Triforce Dragons, I agree. I support Scout and Dill. I wanted to see what happened to Dill. I think it's amazing that he, you know, went overseas and stayed in Italy. I'm like, that kind of makes sense. And she's like, Dill was always a wanderer. To me, part of me wonders, would she not be a wanderer with Dill? Like, I feel like Scout could do it. I agree, Annie. Doesn't sound like what Scout really needs. She's someone she might find in New York, who knows? But I think she needs someone like her that came from a community like Macomb and then left. I think that, someone that's her people, but not her people. I think she would find that, because I think someone needs to understand the Macomb part in her too. And that's what Henry does well. He just doesn't understand the other side. No more pasta talk. If you guys can't tell, I've been eating a lot of pasta and I need to chill. No, we're not talking pasta again. Oh, man. We never really found out what Scout does in New York. No, we did. We did. Didn't we? Oh, no. I didn't buy that Dr. Jack justifies Atticus by saying that I was just trying to get along with the city. No, guys, this isn't a pasta talk. This is a book talk. We'll have another day for pasta talks, maybe. This is book talk. We have another about 10 minutes of book talk. Yes, I think gnocchi's pasta. But that's not important. All right, back to the book discussion. I don't think to agree with someone, to understand someone, it means you agree with them. I think Jack understands Atticus, and there's an argument to be made for what Hank Henry said about them serving on the council in order to serve the city and know and fight your enemy, you must know your enemy. I get that, but Henry then later admits that in order to do so, he has to. But then this kind of reminds me of what book did we just read? The Testaments of our aunt. What was her name? The main aunt that we talk about in the whole book. She has her own chapters. Reminds me of her that in order to destroy the system, she had to get inside it. And she had to get to the top inside it. So she had to take on a lot to destroy it. So in essence, Henry was making that argument. He was making the argument that if I'm ever going to have to do anything, it's going to be from the inside. Thank you, Aunt Lydia. But we didn't agree with that, right? Why do they call him Hank? Like, that's Connection Henry. At first I thought they were talking about two different people. Hank is a nickname from Henry. Just like Jack is a nickname for John. I know that John and Jack are the same amount of letters, but Jack is actually, in the United States, a nickname for John. Hank is a nickname for Henry. It's just one of those. But later Atticus admits he doesn't want to fight the enemy. He agrees with them. No. You see, he was the enemy. He was like separate but equal is equal. He felt that was fine. He felt it preserved their way of life without having to do what any... And then when now that was changed, he stopped agreeing. He was fighting for the rights of that man, that person that was accused of this rape in the first book, which he believes were being infringed upon. But then when he feels things changed, he was on the same line. I think that's what we don't... I think that's what this was also. Americans have not odd nicknames. Oh, your boss is back at work. All right, thanks for joining. Yeah, well, it's like how, I don't know, in Spanish we have that, right? Where Ignacio, people will call Nacho, right? Or Guillermo, people call Memo, right? So, like, sometimes there are nicknames that are just in names. Hank can also be a proper name. Yeah, Jack can also be Beto, Fray Beto, right? Like, they can be proper names. They can also be full names. Like, someone can be called Jimmy. They don't have to have a real name, James or Jim. They can be Jimmy. But generally, that's cool. But generally, like, those names are seem less formal. So, like, Hank would seem less formal than Henry. Although now it's not that way. Like, maybe back then. Yeah, Jade says Beto. Jose, yeah, Pepe. Just like that. Just like that. With Hank, Henry, Jack, John. Yeah, so let's wind down this book talk. Are there any quotes anyone wants to read out? And then we end. We've got about 7 minutes that I want to finish this book. Right. I'm gonna look. You did, Anna. When I learned about it, I was like, someone is okay to be called Dick by choice. Well, yeah, back then, Richard Nixon, people called him Dick. There's, yeah, like Dick was always nicknamed for Richard. Don't know why. No one's called that anymore, or no one really goes by that nickname. Although I think I know someone named Dick. Okay, I need a watchman to tell me this is what a man says, but this is what he means. To draw a line down in the middle and say, here's this justice and there's that justice. It makes me understand the difference. Our gods are remote to us, Jean-Louise. They must never descend to human level. Autumn was her happiest season. Have you ever considered you can't have a set of backward people living among the advanced? She was almost in love with him. No, that's impossible, she thought. Either you are or you aren't. Hope you weren't doing the backstroke. So I don't know if I told you guys, I partially read the book and then I listened to most of it via the audiobook that Reese Witherspoon read, and she actually did a great job. I don't know if you guys know that she has her own like her own book club as well, which is pretty cool. And sometimes I'm sorry. I am their blood and bones. I have dug in this ground. This is my home. But I'm not their blood. The ground doesn't care who digs it. I'm a stranger at a cocktail party. If you tell me that power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely, I would throw coffee at you. Yeah, it's a Churchill quote that was famous around that time. It's still pretty famous. The time your friends need you is when they're wrong, Jean-Louise. Oh, I always imagined him having this like thick southern drawl. The time your friends need you is when they're wrong, Jean-Louise. They don't need you when you're right. I also listened to the audiobook because I didn't have much free time. It was a great way to keep up the reading, right? I loved audiobooks. Sometimes we have to kill a little to live. I don't remember the whole quote, but I wrote it down. I can't find my book. All good. I remember that one. Remember this also. It's always easy to look back and see what we were. It's hard to see what we are. What was my favorite line from the book? Probably that one. It's always easy to look back and see where we were, what we were. It's hard to see what we are. That's hindsight's 20/20. That's that phrase. I agree. The woods are full of people like you, but we need some more. I don't know why you can't. Hypocrites have just as much right to live in this world as anybody. I just don't like my world disturbed without some warning. Also, it's always easy to look back. I can take anything anybody calls me, so long as it's not true. That is a good one. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, actually. I did think about, like if we read out loud together via live or something, but then that would probably get into some sort of, Rita and I know this well, some property issues or licensing issues or something of that, since this is like saved online, so be careful with that type of stuff. I think we'd have to have probably like expressly written permission to read anything over this. That's longer than like, a paragraph. I mean, there are some things I simply can't do that you can. Maycomb was looking back at her. Go away, the old building said. There is no place for you here. You're not wanted. We have secrets. Prejudice, a dirty word, and faith, a clean one. have something in common. They both begin where reason ends. Ha! Free trip to jail. Alright, so overall, I'm seeing that this book maybe not achieved the same expectation level or same level as its predecessor, while allowing for good discussion. It was not the favorite of this book club, and that is okay. You confuse your father with good. You never saw him as a man with a man's heart, as a man's failings. So yeah, that's it. I love this book. I would recommend it to other people. Especially, I think, if you put it into the idea of trying to understand people today. People today that are espousing political ideologies that agree with one party and refusing to confront the other parties. It's happening on both sides. I agree with one side, but within both we have to find the merits and weaknesses. And we have to find a way to quell our anger and frustration and really hear what the other person's saying and then find a better way about achieving our goals. But that's the hard part, right? Yeah, that's the thing. Even though we don't agree with, appreciate I appreciate that even if we don't enjoy the book, we always have deep discussions. It's fascinating. Because you can always talk about things. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for us to continue to read a bunch of random stuff. Because I want us to have books that we don't have enough time to talk about. And then I want us to have books where we're finding ways to discuss it. Open ideas. And I think that's where deep thinking kind of starts, past what your first thoughts are, but when you're forced to sit there and really reflect, and then pick an idea, and then mine it, and then cut it open, and see what else is in there. And then maybe there's another one in there, and then you can cut that little one open, and maybe within there, then you find the grain that is that's something we could talk about. That's important. Without having read the book, I would say that it is an interesting book with an interesting historical context that people could give their opinions on and do discussions. Yes, exactly. And I think maybe we should have done, maybe that's on me, maybe I should have done a little bit more to preface this period of time in the United States. This was post-World War II, right? But pre-Civil Rights Movement, pre the heart of the Civil Rights Movement. Although Brown versus the Board of Education was a big part in the Civil Rights Movement, that started the desegregation of schools, and that's it's this whole movement. But at the same time, America was leaning towards what you see Henry kind of espousing, this idea of his life where he settles down, has his job in the city, gets married, and has children. And yeah, 1950s. It was 1954 that Brown versus the Board of Education happened. And since Atticus brought that up in the beginning of the book, so did you see what the papers have been saying since that court decision? It had to have been within that year. So I'm guessing 1954, 1955. Okay, Rita. It is time. We have 13 minutes. Let's do it. Any questions? Talks about movies. Let's do it for 5 minutes, and then we will jump into what is expected for Sunday for The Power of Habit. And then we can discuss that here. I cannot wait to see Little Women. This year was a little disappointing in terms of fave nominee, best nominee. All right, I'll say this. I think I think it's very very exciting. Antonio Banderas was nominated for the Best Actor Academy Award. Haven't seen the movie. I'm going to see it soon, but super excited that we have a Latin American man nominated. That doesn't happen often, and it's only won in history once. So to see that is pretty cool. I have seen Rise of the Skywalker now, so later we can talk about that later too. I think Us was definitely snubbed. I think Uncut Gems was snubbed. I haven't seen Little Women yet, so I can't speak to it, but from what I hear, everyone thinks that movie was phenomenal, wonderfully directed. I've heard some directors I know say it's one of the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is one of the best directed films I've seen. And so I think that's kind of... Yeah, I was so happy that I think it's cool to see a movie like Parasite, which was going to run in the foreign category, like foreign film category, nominated for Best Picture. That's freaking cool. Super excited about Jojo Rabbit too. I mean, I thought that movie was wonderfully charming. I agree. I haven't seen Parasite yet. I might see that today. No, just super exciting. I love when that comes out because then it also kind of gives like a good list of movies that I'm like, those should have been on my radar if I haven't seen them, and if they have. I will say this though, I was really disappointed that The Farewell didn't get anything because I thought that was one of the best movies of the year. I thought Awkwafina was absolutely incredible. I thought it was beautifully directed. I thought it was a wonderful film about family and culture and loss and sickness. I thought it was just like, I thought it was an amazing, incredible film. I can't speak enough about The Farewell. And if you haven't seen it, you should. Yeah, The Joker. Oh, well, that was obvious, if you ask me. It's a film like we'd seen before. I don't know. It was wicked cool, and I love that Joaquin Phoenix got nominated. But I'm going to say, if you guys haven't seen Uncut Gems, you should. I've never seen a film like it. I'll say that. And I thought that was pretty cool. It is incredible. Joker's a good movie, but not 11 nominees worthy movie. I've heard that about a few movies that got a lot, but I haven't seen Once Upon a Time yet. I haven't seen Irishman yet. Okay, that's all the time we have for that. That was our little toe dip in the water that is film. So we will... So yeah, let's talk about our next book, The Power of Habit. So in the original post when I talked about this book, I have another book that I'm ruminating whether or not it's going to be next, so you might have to wait till Sunday for another book announcement, because I haven't decided fully. So I have it that we would do the first 60 pages, which is the first part of the book. Yeah, 2 more books to the next live. This was like a medium live. The next live will be Sunday. I could have been wrong though. What happened here? One sec. The first part is 93 pages in your copy. That's the problem. I'm looking at it now. But mine says 60. Part 1, Habits of Individuals. Part 2, The Habits of a Successful Organization. But when I go into the book, and I go to page 60, oh boy, you're right, 93. Shoot, that's too long for 4 days, or however many days you have. My bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the prologue. You know what? We're going to do up to page 60, up to chapter 3 of the first part. So you're going to read part 1, chapter 1 and 2, and stop before the golden rule of habit change, why transformation occurs. Because I think it's cool if we, that will make sense. In the fall of night, okay, yeah. So that's because then now it's going there. So we're going to read up to, not through. Stop when you get to this page. Chapter 3, the golden rule of habit changes. Or change. Habit change. That is page 60. Is that good? Does everyone feel like that? It's the reason I told you guys why I wanted to read this book. My mother actually read it with her book club. She said it can get boring at times, but that the messages are pretty cool and that it's helped her form new habits and continues to do so. So I think it's a really good book to start the beginning of the year. 1, so we can look at what our habits are. 2, so we can analyze why they are that way and what we're trying to achieve with them. And 3, so that maybe we can find a way to change them if we want, or create new ones that are healthier and better for our goals. So we will read up to page 60 for today, for Sunday. Yeah, I should be chill to do that on Sunday. So we'll read up to chapter 3, page 60 of The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. If someone could retweet or tweet that, I will retweet that. I'm going to I'll put a picture of it in my story, in the story here. Should I put that in my... we'll worry about that later. Don't forget to post the hour. I will not, but I will only be able to post that closer to Sunday. Unfortunately. So far I'm liking it. It's very different from anything we've read in the book club, and that's another big reason why I chose it. I want myself to constantly be analyzing and reading new things. So you're like working on different muscles. Yeah, I think it's super interesting. My mother's the one that said it might be boring at times. So I'm like, okay, we'll watch out for that. But I think we're fine. It seems pretty interesting. So I will see you guys. Yeah, I know, 2 in a week. I will see you guys on Sunday. I will do my best to get out the time as soon as possible. And then hopefully on Sunday I'll have another book or 2 for this period of time. I don't know what we call our we have like 2 chunks of Rosende reads, and we have like a summer. I don't want to call them like semesters, right? Because it's not a class. Anyway, so I will see you guys soon. Have a great week. Continue to keep being curious, keep questioning things, keep learning, keep growing, keep understanding. I'm going to put that one in there. Keep seeking understanding. And continue to be positive forces of change in your communities. I will see you guys on Sunday. Let's learn how to start new habits and break our old ones. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.